Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my photo editing live stream where you can submit your images before the stream starts and I edit them here for you live using DxO. I'm on version 9.10. It was just released, I guess, this morning or last night, and I did update it. It's supposed to fix, it looked like several bugs there. I wish I could have did a screenshot of what they were before I just installed it, but make sure you update to the latest version. A lot of bug fixes in there. And again, this is basically to show you the tools and my photo editing workflow to help you with your editing workflow um, and learn the tools that we have in DxO Photolab. I'm also an affiliate for Photolab, so if you're new, you can go down and use my affiliate links down below. It's just robtrek.com/DxO, and I have a discount code, 15% off for new users if you want to use that. Um, quite a pretty decent savings amount, and DxO is my photo editor of choice, and I've tried many, and ultimately I felt DxO gave me the best results. So I do this weekly for people that may have just purchased DxO or thinking about purchasing DxO. I'm your virtual tech support as well, because after I edit 2 or 3 images, hopefully you get a feel for the tools and the workflow, but also if you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat section and I'll do my best to answer them. Again, just as a virtual tech support. So that said, good to see everyone here. I see Robert's here and Henning and John. Good to see you, Larry, Ethan, JCAC. Very good to see you. Let me go ahead and see if I can pull up the Photolab. I've downloaded the images. I got 12 of them. And let me go over to the screen. Ooh, what's up with that? You should be seeing the screen right now, but I don't see it. Let me check something. There we go. Okay, so let me know the audio and video is okay and you can see the screen, but I'll go ahead and get started with this one. And the editing here is strictly, academic, right, and subjective, right? Anything I do here is not a judgment or critique of your photo. It's simply how I would edit the photo if I took it. And as you know, we all have our different vision for a photo or idea. So that's what I'm going to do is show you my expression in the images that, there's a lot of potential for that sometimes. Okay, so we have a hawk here. And the first thing I do is, I look for like a little green arrow here, like on this one, and we'll get to that later. But if there is a green arrow, that means I need to download an optics module, which will optimize the sharpness and do some optical corrections as well. And it's really a signature technology of DxO. But let's go ahead and open this one up for customize. I could have just clicked customize here. And what I like to do is I like to, first thing I always do is apply a basic preset or default preset that you can download free from my website that I created. Um, but basically what it does is it applies the optical corrections that I just talked about and denoising and a tiny bit of sharpening. Um, and that's it really. So there's that. Um, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that first. So I'm going to click on the apply preset up here, and I have one called RobTrek default. So if you go to robtrek.com, and then you'll see in the top line menu item where you can do downloads. Okay, so I'm going to apply that, and as you can see, it doesn't make a lot of difference when you just kind of look at it overall, but sometimes it's more dramatic. But this one is pretty straightforward. And let's see. So definitely the hawk is a bit underexposed. I'm thinking about the composition, the overall exposure, if I need to make any macro adjustments, and the white balance. These are the things I kind of look at first. And it's important that you do any kind of geometric changes as well first. Like straightening the horizon or doing any kind of perspective corrections. You need to do all of that first. Primarily, it's good practice, but also if you make any local adjustments later, they don't follow the geometric changes you make. So you need to make all the geometry done first. So in this image here, we really don't need to do any geometry. I just need to crop in a bit, I think. And maybe a vertical crop like this. And just come in and cut out some of the branches and just even the space out. And we'll just do front and center. I think that balances out kind of nicely right there. And I'm going to go ahead and just select the background first. And I can use the AI tool, so I'm just going to point to the back like this. And let's just bring that exposure down a bit. About a full stop. And also, I think I'll increase the color back there. I like some of the yellows I see back there. So let me try some vibrancy and saturation. Okay, yeah, I kind of like that. All right, now I'm going to go back to the global changes here and just bring it up one stop. I might need to do more. Uh, let's just do one stop. And then I'm going to locally select, I'm going to go back to my local adjustments here. I'm going to bring that, let's bring it down more selectively using selective tones. And I think that's good. Okay, let's create a new layer. And I'm just going to select the bird. And I need to add the talons in there. So I'm going to hit the Shift key and just go down a little bit more here and here. Okay, good. So that's a pretty good mask. All right, now let me go ahead and let's just brighten up the owl or this hawk. Just so it looks a little more natural. Maybe add a little diffusion. And let's see how much. I'm going to try and diffuse this, basically feather the masking a bit. Okay, now let's try this again. Let me try just a global brightening. Let's add some clear view, some micro contrast, and I need to adjust the white balance just a bit. Let's see if we can bring it up just a little brighter. Okay, let me go back to the background. Do that. Turn off the diffusion. I think we only need diffusion on the bird, not the background. Okay. Now I'll add a little vignette as well. maybe pull the blacks in a bit. Like so. I'm going to go back to the bird. Let's just add a little more light to the bird. And whenever I'm doing selective tone, I like to try to keep a straight line, like a diagonal line. Whenever I'm doing this, I think that looks the most natural. Okay, that's good. And then just a little bit, shift to magenta. Maybe a little bit more warmth. Okay. Now let me bring out the eyes. So let's make a new layer. And let me just bring this in. And I'm going to add a little bit of micro contrast and clear view, and also some vibrancy and saturation. Maybe just a little bit extra warmth in here as well. And I can probably do the same on the beak, right about there. I'm going to tighten up the luminosity mask on the control point, because I don't want a halo around the beak. So you can see, like if I turn it off, you can see how the beak gets a little brighter. So I'm going to set the luminosity a little bit stronger. But I think we're good. Okay. Uh, and this is a really hot spot over here, so I might just crop in a little more. Let me see. I can probably do that. Yeah. Okay, and then let's brush out just a little bit. There we go. All right, now I'm just going to add a vignette. I can do that with a control point. I'm going to select somewhere up here and just spread that about that much, and then invert it. Turn the chroma and luma to 0, and then just use the selective tone to just create sort of a natural looking vignette. Maybe we can come down a little bit. And just darken it. Okay, the last thing is I feel like it's really bright over here off the corners, so I'm gonna go back to this mask. Maybe not diffuse it quite so much. What if I turn the diffusion back to 0? Yeah, now it looks a little cut out, so let me just adjust these. I think that's good. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a side by side. Not bad. I think I need to brighten the background just a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to that mask. Excuse me. We'll just add a little more brightening. Maybe put that back to 0. Okay. Um, there you have it, before and after. And then I can click here and select without geometry. And you can see this is the entire image, and this is the final edit. And I think that came up pretty nice. All right, I didn't do any work on the talons, but sometimes I like to just add a little more saturation to these. Uh, Maybe I'll do that. I'll just use the brush. Doesn't have to be so precise. And maybe just pull the highlights down a bit. All right, there we go. All right, let's go to the next one. And see, we have a little puffin carrying a bunch of little fish. That's cool. So no optics module. So let's apply a default preset and oops. Let's do a nice crop. Maybe have them flying up into the frame like so. A little bit more. I think that works. And then we'll do a very similar thing. Go ahead and select the background. And we'll just darken that a bit using selective tone. And then we'll select the bird. And I really need to temper the highlights a bit. Add some clear view, a little micro contrast, and let's push the yellows a bit. Maybe a little spread into the reds. And we need just a little bit under the wings, I think. So I'm just going to use a regular brush. Let's make a new mask. I'm going to resize it. So I'm just holding the control key down on my keyboard, then rolling my mouse wheel up and down. And then I can adjust the brush size very quickly this way. And then I have flow and opacity up here. So let's just draw one line, which is about 20%. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. And let's just push the shadows a bit. Get a little bit in the blacks as well. I'm going to get right in here. Just a little bit more here. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit of sharpening to the eye. Because this area is a little bit soft because we don't have a lot of pixels, but I'm going to just use a control point and go all the way down to the bottom and just increase the sharpening. Just a bit there, maybe a bit on the beak. And I'm going to add a little warmth to the body. So I think it was mask number 2. Just going to add a little bit of warmth. Like so. All right. So there's the before and after. So I think it's a good crop flying into the frame. And the background is just about the right luminance relative to the puffin itself. And we were able to temper the highlights for the most part, the ones that matter anyway, particularly, like the white feathers, and bring out some of the detail. And I could have done this on the last image, but we can just kind of come in and see the difference that the optics module and the denoising does. It's pretty amazing, the difference um, with something like this. And I tend to make my images a little bit crispier because we don't pixel people and we look at the images like in print or on a social media like online. We normally look at the whole image like this. And I found that just over sharpening just a little bit just looks a little better to my eye, but that's again very subjective. Okay. Oh, sorry, William. There is metadata here. I skim the chat as I'm editing, but um, I will I will address them after this image in more detail. All right, so here we have a pretty nice landscape, seascape shot. So I'm going to go ahead and download the optics module. So we have a 5D Mark IV with a 24 to 105 f4L. Really nice setup. Really, really nice. And usually this takes about a minute. So we might have to wait about a minute before it gets started, but I'm just going to skim the chat. Oh, I see Heather's here. Good to see you. Um, and Paul has come in. Good to see you. And while this is downloading, I had something come up. I couldn't do the live stream this morning like I normally do, so I had to wait till 2 o'clock my time. So hopefully that still works out for a lot of you. But um, I had posted it for 9 a.m. all week, and then at the last minute, last night, I get a call that I had to be somewhere else this morning, so I couldn't edit, do the live stream. But I'm here now, and a lot of you watch this after the stream is over anyway, so it works out. Yeah, this one's taking a little while to upload. Okay, there we go. All right, so this image here, I feel like, yeah, there's definitely a horizon correction. Let me apply my default preset first. And that got rid of those corner vignetting that we normally see with zoom lenses. This is probably all the way wide, yeah, at the 24 millimeters. So and also you might have a filter screwed onto the front. Uh, Sometimes that's what causes the corners to vignette a little bit harder than we saw. But okay. Um, I definitely need to straighten horizon. So let me do that first. I might just use this tool. Well, I can click the auto tool. Oh, this time it did a good job. The automatic horizon leveler is about 80-20, meaning 80% of the time it doesn't work, 20% of the time it does get it right. This is one of those 20%ers here. So I'm pretty happy with that leveling. And there's a lot of negative space here on the top and bottom that's not doing much. There's no patterns or geometry or patterns in the sand or in the sky. So I'm going to go ahead and just crop those out and maybe go extra wide. Also, I like the corner here. So that's going to lead our eye or carry our eye into the frame. So I'll probably crop right about here. And then as for the top, maybe right here. So let's see how that looks. Let's start with 16 by 9 because that's a standard screen size. Um, and then I also want to kind of balance the right and left because the right side is very, very heavy right now. So I'm going to take out a lot of the right side. And maybe right here. It's still a little bit, I think right about there is a good balance. So when I'm cropping, the composition, I don't overthink it too much. I just use rule of thirds where I try to create some depth in the image. So I got about 1/3 of the foreground here is just all beach, sand, and a little bit of the water. And then 1/3 is the main area here, the detail of the rocks. And then the top here, it's really more than 1/3 of just sky. But it's kind of offset a little bit because this giant rock over here, I think is balancing, the little bit extra that we cropped in the top. So, yeah, it's still too much up here. So I'm going to try a little wider crop. Let's try 16 by 7. And try it there. Okay, that works for me. I think that's a good balance. All right, now the luminance levels are pretty flat here, meaning the brightest areas are not way off from the darkest areas, with one or two, exceptions here. And the reason I'm thinking about that is because if I want to convert this to black and white, I could get I could go for a very low contrast black and white, which I'm kind of leaning towards, or I can go for this muted color look. So I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to go for a muted color look. Normally I would just go right to black and white for this because it is kind of low contrast. Um, so what I might do is just add a little bit more contrast here in the front and then leave the rest alone. Uh, so let me go over here. Let's select our AI tool and see how much we can get. Let's select the water first. I'm just going to add a little clear view, just to make the water a bit shinier and add a little micro contrast. And what I might do is I'm going to feather it a bit. So I'm going to add a submask, select a brush, and then I'm going to select a negative brush. I got my feathering and flow, feathering 100%. I'm going to turn the flow down just a bit and use a big brush and I'll turn on the mask. And I just want to just subtract a little bit off the top like that. So now it's a little bit lighter in here, the effect. I think that works. Okay. Let me try this sand. I'm wondering, I'm wondering if I can create a little more separation of this sand from the rocks. So what I might do is either, let me create a new mask. There's a little bit here, a little bit there. Maybe just brighten it a bit. Let me diffuse it. And a little more. Then maybe add a little bit of warmth. Okay, not that much, just about. Right about there looks good. Okay, we're almost there. Let me see if I can just add a little bit more contrast in the sky and a little bit here in the water. This exposure looks like it was a little bit long. Let me see, we're at, 15 seconds, okay. Because I noticed the crispiness of the waves is very soft. So I figured it's a long exposure. But I'm going to just add a little bit of light back in there. So I'm going to take a small brush. I'm going to dial back the flow a little bit. Let's create a new mask. And just kiss the waves a bit. A little bit in here. Let me try that again. I'm just I'm just doing a little bit of light painting here. Okay. All right, that's good. And then we'll do a little bit to the sky. So I'm going to go back, new mask, AI detect. I'm not sure if clear view or let me try micro contrast. I'm going to try micro contrast. Then I'm going to go over here to the color. I'm just going to look at some of these different, whoops, these different color profiles we have. Portrait 3 is nice, and then natural. I like portrait 3. All right. And I think that's it. So let's go ahead and compare side by side. So not a dramatic difference other than just a little tighter crop. Let me, so there's the original. So the optics module fixed this vignetting in the corners. Not that it mattered in the end because I cropped those out anyway. Um, but I wanted to keep that kind of soft look to it. But then just sort of bring out a little bit more contrast, but not on the whole image, not like globally increased contrast, but you know, subjectively, like on the waves and along the shoreline. And then the clouds just needed a hint more detail. So I did that with micro contrast. But I think that that came out pretty good. So we can do just a slider with geometry. So very, very little change. But I did brighten up the sand a little bit to separate it from the rock. So we get a little more depth overall in terms of luminance. And then you'll also notice the water is a lot shinier, right? As I go across. Oops, like so. And then that's it. Okay, very good. So let me check the chat section because I think I saw a question. Um, go up here. And William says, I need your help on the OM1 and 300F4 Pro. My F fails as soon as the bird gets with cliffs in the background. I use spot shadow metering. Okay, so your metering is fine. What you need to do is you just need to use a smaller point and get better at tracking. But yeah, I can't really get into it here because this is an editing live stream. Um, maybe just send me an email and I'll try and email you some suggestions to improve your bird autofocus and some of the things that I do. Or if you're still here at the end, just remind me and I'll try and address your question at the very end. Okay, and then Heather says, why did you lower the background exposure before the global adjustments? Okay, because it was so extreme, the differences, um, I wanted to get those differences a little less, right? I didn't want such extreme shadow and highlight. So I wanted to bring the shadows and highlights a little closer together in terms of overall luminance before going to the global. Because if I tried to globally brighten up, say, I assume you're talking about the hawk. If I just globally brighten up the whole image, to where the hawk looks properly exposed, the background would be so bright, I wouldn't really be able to see what was going on back there. So if we go back to this image and let me just reset it. If I were to just globally brighten this, now the hawk looks properly exposed, but now all the colors and everything that are back there would get washed out and I may not see them. As opposed to when it's here, I can see some yellows and greens and reds back here that I may want to keep. So that's why I started, oh, you're not seeing, sorry. So this is the image here. I reset it. If I were able to, if I brighten up the image to where the hawk is properly exposed, then, like I said, I would lose all of the colors and everything back here. I really can't see what's going on back here. And I may or may not want to include it. So that's why I darkened it first, because the difference between the shadows and highlights were so extreme. When I go back to the global adjustments, I'll be able to see everything without overexposing or underexposing. So that was the main reason in this case. Okay, hawk looks great. Yeah, it was a very shadowy area, and you exposed it almost perfectly. I would have probably brightened a little bit more on the hawk, but it worked out. There was plenty of wiggle room on the raw file. And Eric is here. Good, or Intrigue is here. Good to see you, Intrigue. And Shakave, good to see you. Says hello, Rob and all. Don't know what to send you. Have to do my edit as well. Okay. And no info. Yeah, I did turn the metadata back on. And yeah, the noise reduction is amazing. And then Heather asks, how do you get rid of the little squares and circles? You have control. Oh, I just hit the escape key on my keyboard, and that gets out of the layering mode or masking mode. It takes you out of the masking box. So if we look at like we go back to the local adjustments and I select that, right now I have the control point, right? But if I select mask, now it's turned into a square. But I have the control point, so if I hit the escape key on my keyboard, it gets you out of this window. So even if I select the mask, if I just hit the escape key, it takes me out of this local adjustment box when I hit the escape key. So all of the points in here, uh, then I can go back and do some other things. Okay, and the 5D Mark IV was my first full frame. Oh, nice. And I believe this shot was taken in Bandon, Oregon, just south of Face Rock Viewpoint. I have no idea, but it's a beautiful seascape. And Heather says, funny local camera club had a judge reviewing images. He'd make critiques, and I'd say Rob says does that all the time. They did talk about flipping an image left to right for a landscape, for one landscape improved. I've seen people do that where they flip it. I've not run across too many images that I need to flip. I almost never do it. Almost never. Uh, I think it can create more problems than it fixes. And it would just be weird to me to flip it. So I never, actually I would say I never flip images. Other than say reflections, sometimes I flip them vertically, right? I invert them upside down when I do reflections, but horizontally, like left to right, I never flip things left to right to be opposite. And the current image of rocky coastline, or maybe that's not your image. Oops, not mine, not mine. I grew up in, okay, sorry. I'm just going through the chat real quick. Sometimes it's simple things. Thanks. Okay, good. Yeah, just the escape key. I think that's what you're referring to, right? All right, let's go back to the editing. And we have a DNG file. So I suspect this is either a Pentax or a sorry, it's a Pentax or a uh Leica. It's hard to say. So what I have to do is I have to convert this because DNG files, believe it or not, are not universally compatible. They're even DNG files can also be proprietary in a way that not every software can read them. Uh, so I'll convert this to a TIFF file. So I can probably do that with Adobe Bridge. So let me just pull up Adobe Bridge, and I'll have to navigate to that folder. Some of the hard drives need to spin up. Not all of them have spun up yet. There we go. And this is drive. It's this one. Other. Okay, so which one was the TIFF file? This one. So if I right click this, Adobe Bridge is free. You can download it from Adobe's website. Let's see. Export to, let's try custom export. So original file location, let's do TIFF, no compression, and I'm going to pick Pro Photo to maximize the color space, 16 bits. We don't need to save transparency because I don't think there's any layers or any transparent layers. Scale image, we'll leave that alone. All metadata. Okay, so let's start export. And that was quick. All right, there we have it. Now I can edit this. So you can see it's a very simple process. If you do run into a file that is not compatible with Photolab, Adobe Bridge can convert a lot of files that Photolab cannot, this being one of them. Okay, so definitely a horizon correction because everything is tilted to the right. This is a really nice collection of, what's that, a Rolls Royce? This looks like a Rolls Royce. That looks like an Opel. I don't know what these are. Maybe MGs. I don't know. Really interesting collection though. So I don't need an optics module, so I will just go right to the preset and we'll choose default. And let's see, this is an oh, this is a little compact camera, I think. EXFH100. Must be a, oh yeah, Casio. This has got to be one of the little pocket cameras. I'm just guessing, but that's what I think it is. All right, let's go here to the geometry tab and just click perspective and see if that, ugh, I don't think that I like that. I think I'll just manually do a tilt. So we'll click on horizon and I'm going to pull up the rule of thirds grid here while I'm straightening it. And I think, I can use the fence line here or this line here, like this door. Maybe back off just a little bit. In this window. That looks good. All right, now in terms of composition, while I'm in the cropping tool, again, I don't think I need this giant house in the background. I would just like the cars here. Do a 16 by 9. Let's not go to the corner of the fence. I think that'll do. And the question is, do I go, wow, we need to, this is a JPEG, right? So maybe, yeah, these highlights are not going to be recoverable. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they're gone. So, to check highlights, I just simply pull the global exposure down and I can see it's not bringing anything back. So, uh, but this image is a little bit soft. So I need to make it crispier. Let me go to the detail panel and I'm going to go to 1 pixel radius and just add some intensity here. We can be pretty aggressive. I think that's just what I needed, maybe a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to try and bring out some of the color like in these tail lights because I think it'll make a nice accent to the image. Warm up this area in here overall and cool off the background. So we'll go to local adjustments. So let's go up here. I'm going to select the brighter parts. And let's just bump the saturation a bit. And just warm it a little bit that way. I can't warm it up directly. This is something I hope DxO can fix. Whenever you're working with like a JPEG or TIFF file, you can't like do local adjustments on the white balance. So I have to play with the color wheel to kind of do the same thing, but it's not as good as just directly controlling. And I've been asking for it every year when we have like a big conference, like teleconference or Zoom call, whatever. All right, so let's do that. Maybe temper it a bit, like so. Let's make a new layer. And we'll come in the opposite direction. I'm going to stay in the darker tones, but let me back off the luminance a bit and the chroma. Okay, that's getting there. And this time we'll select, let's just do this, all channels. I'm going to rotate this around until I get kind of a cooler color. Let me see. About there. Sometimes I crank these up just so I can see it a little better. But I'm not going to leave them there. And put those back down to 0. Okay. All right, let's do, gosh, this one is a lot of work. Let's select the auto masking brush, make a new layer, and I'm just going to select these tail lights. Might have to do these separately. I'm going to do those separately. Let's see if there's any color in those. A little bit. Pull the highlights. Okay, and then maybe I can use the same one. Let me see. Yeah, that's fine. Just a little bit of kiss of color. Okay, new mask. Go back to the AI tool. See if I can do something with these windows. Right about there. Do that window. Not this one. These are too dark. We'll add one more there. Okay, good. This area up here needs to be darker. I think this is the right one. This one. Pull off. I think I had the masking right. About there. All right, I think that's all I can do. So I hit the F9 key to push those panels out to the side. And there's the original on the left, and here's my edit on the right. Very subtle changes, but I had to do quite drastic things to the sliders because it's a JPEG. So I had to really push the saturation and other sliders pretty much to their max to get all of this, to push a JPEG basically. Whereas a raw file, I wouldn't have to do quite as much sliding around and editing. But what I want you to see is the finer detail. So we'll compare with geometry. But this is what the unsharp mask tool does, is it really works well on JPEGs. I didn't do any denoising or anything because the image is very clean. But that's the idea. So there's the before and there's the after. All right, let's go to the next one. I'm going to hit the F9 key. And I think, oh, I need an optics module first. Let me do that. And I need to pour a glass of water while this is downloading. I'll be right back. Okay. Oh, Michael says it's not a Leica, it's a DNG from a Casio. That's funny. Um, and Lightroom does it normally, right? That makes sense. Sorry, I was just reading XMeta's comment there about that file. Okay. All right, so let's apply basic preset or default preset first. I might even do an extra sharp on this one. I think I'll do that extra sharp. Again, these are free for download from my website. And I have a couple of ideas. The composition is already pretty straightforward. Uh, I think the question is a tiny bit of red in here against this green is nice. So the question is, do I drastically change the composition to emphasize this red and green? Let me think. It needs a slight perspective correction. Let me see if the auto works. No. So I'm just going to tilt it just a little bit. Yeah, right there. And then let me just play a little bit here. I like this mirror though. Let me do just don't know if I can get a decent composition in here. Need a little more headroom. Don't know. I'm going to try and do this quickly. Back here, eyedropper on this green. And then AI, it's going to be tough to get the car. But let me try. Okay. Then let's work on the headlight. Do the same thing down here. Actually, yeah, just expand that out. Do the same thing on the wheel. How about this mirror? Just not crazy about this. No. The problem is the car is black. Otherwise, I could easily separate the background. Okay, so this is my initial idea. Uh, let's go with idea number 2 real quick. So we're gonna go back out. I'll have to add some local adjustments to the left side here, but let me get my geometry straight. Let me see if I can. Let's create a virtual copy. So we'll go with idea number 2 here. And let's go ahead and reset this to this. Maybe come in just a little bit tighter, just off this left corner. Make a new layer, AI mask, select the car. Let's invert that. Uh, that's not going to work. It's like I was thinking about just blurring it, but I'm going to have to blur in here somehow. Let me try again. Let's make a new mask. Let's let's blur that. And then we'll make a sub mask. We'll select the car. And then punch it out with the hole puncher here. But let's add a sub mask. Wonder if I can do this with a brush. Yeah, a little bit. All right. So I'm going to go to this filter. Let's blur this even more. This. Pull the saturation down. Maybe the contrast. All right. Okay, so I'll go back to the sub mask, a brush. Just oof, this is a train wreck. Yeah, it's not going to work. Um, I really can't blur the background without blurring the windows. So mask 3 is what, my shiny chrome. So let me add it in here. Over here. Push the shadows a bit more. Let's do a sub mask with a brush. Let's get in there a little bit more. Okay. So there's that edit. Um, so I didn't really do much other than just brighten up the chrome and add a little crispiness to the image overall. So if we just do a slider and just pixel peep just a little bit, you can see it did bring out a lot of detail, especially on the Chevrolet logo here. I was a little bit soft and then bringing that out. And then if you look at the headlight, I definitely wanted to make that very, very glossy. And I wanted to emphasize the red inside. I could have probably hit these pillars too, but you get the idea. Uh, and then my original idea of just getting this corner, but I don't think that worked too well. If the car wasn't black, if it was like, if the car was red, then we'd have a different story here. Because then I could just darken the background a bit. I think the only thing I would do different here is maybe we go back to this mask. Let me select the car again. Select the car, invert it, and just desaturate a bit the background. Okay, beautiful car. Let's go to the next one. And we have a, looks like a goldfinch. So let's go ahead and apply. Let's do a default preset. Let's crop in, maybe horizontal, right about there. Get a little more in there. And let's just hit the beak and the eye. I don't know if I can. I'm gonna have to be very tight on the eye. That's all I want to do. Okay, go ahead and select the bird with a new mask, and we will crank up the vibrancy, saturation, maybe pull it back just a tad. Let's add a little warmth. Go back to this eye. Just back that off a little with opacity. And okay, that looks good. Um, Make a new mask. Let's select the flower. Let's give it some micro contrast and some color. Let's just brighten this up a little bit. Let's add a vignette. I invert 0, 0. Okay. Let's get rid of this one piece up here. Okay. And that's not great. Hold on. That's better. Okay. A little bit more right there. And this line, maybe. Okay. Go back to this flower. Let's give it a little bit of, just a little brighter. Okay, and then let me check the fine detail in here. So I feel like use the auto masking brush. I'd like this beak to be closer to the color of those flowers there. Just a slight shift. And then I don't know, don't think we can bring it back too much detail. Let me select the bird again. Just add a tiny bit of sharpening. This one highlights a little bit strong. The new mask. Back to my vignette. Okay. Oh, there. That's the original on the left. And there's my edit on the right. So it's really just about a little brightening and saturation, right? And then a crop with a vignette, brush out a couple of distractions and you're done. Uh, so let's do just a quick split view just to kind of look at how much detail we could recover. And I think, yeah, the eye makes a big difference. I really wanted to make sure I got the specular. I thought I could bring back a little bit of the iris, but yeah, that was wishful thinking. But yeah, I think that came out really nice. Okay, let's go to the next one. And F9 key. All right. Wow, what a crazy lion. Really enjoying the wind or something. Let's see what we can do here. I already have the Priest optics module, so let's do an extra sharp on this one. And composition, I feel like we need a slight tilt. There we go. Another 20%er, the auto horizon got it. Because now that feels level. I don't know how it figured it out, but that looks right. And I think 16 by 9. Ooh, that's too tight, isn't it? Mm, I'd like to get to the top of that tree. So let's go back to, let's try a 3 by 2. Yeah, that's better. Because this little tree right here, I think gives a little bit of a sense of height, like how high up this lion is. Yeah, I think that's all we need. It's just that little bit and this little bit of tree here. And then from here, it's not much to do, I think. Just select the lion. Just give it a little more warmth. Let's um let's just do a little bit of light painting. I'm going to turn the flow down to 10% and just brush here. A little bit there. Okay. Not the highlights, but let me see. Let's just give a little bit more here. Get here and here. All right, I think that's more than enough. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna use the Alt key to make a negative brush and just clean up a little bit in here and a little bit in here. Then one more brush just to push the highlights a bit. All right, I think I'll call it there. The only thing I don't like is this stick going up his butt right here. I wish I could just remove that, but that would be tricky. Photoshop could do that pretty easily, but I don't think I can do it with Photolab. Let me try. What I'm gonna have to do is have a very, very minimal feather. One more time. Cut too much in there. All right, zero feather. Just gonna gradually increase the feathering and see. Ah, that looks like crap. Well, anyway, now it looks like he's farting because there's distortion here. Anyway, yeah, Photoshop would fix that right up. Maybe in version 10 they'll come up with a really good removal tool, but in version 9 it's just not happening. So I'm going to reset that. But okay, other than that, very, very nice picture. There's the original. So all I did was just emphasize the shadow areas with the brush, and then do a little sharpening. And then Photoshop, I would just do remove that stick, and we'd be done. And we can do a slider with geometry, and just see the difference there. It's pretty amazing, right? Okay. Let's go to the next one. So this is a TIFF file, but it's really small. It's not even, it's 0.8 megapixels. I don't know if this was, who's this? J-Rod. I don't know if this is the image you intended to send me, because this is less than 1 megapixel and it's a TIFF, which is normally okay, but I'll do the best I can. assuming it was your intent to send me this, but it looks like it's already been processed to some extent as well. But we'll just get rid of the lens flare right here. Let me do that first. It's the feathering. There we go. I lost my, there we go. And let's darken the sky. Actually, let's do it this way. Um, I'll use a control line. Let's brighten the image up. I really like to create a little bit of a glow. Maybe about like that. Yeah. And then let's select the water. Give it some saturation. Uh, let's do the same thing. See if I can select the city. Not quite. You know, I'm running into a little bit of a glitch here. I can't, some of my keystrokes are not working. Uh, let's go to the global settings. And let's pull out a little bit of the green. Add a little bit more clear view. And a little bit of a push in the midtones. And then a little bit less red, magenta. All right, I'm going to call it there. All right, so we're working with a very, very small file. I don't think I need to crop or adjust the composition at all. You know, sometimes I like to do these kind of compositions 16 by 9, but I think it looks okay in this like 4 by 3-ish. So all I had to do is just emphasize the contrast, basically, and a little bit of saturation. I really wanted to create a little bit of a glow here, light pollution kind of thing, but then have the sky very dark. And then of course darken the water because you can see the shadow of the photographer right here. Okay, very good. Let's go to the next one. And oh, so Jake Hack says that it worked for me. Sorry, didn't. Oh, it's okay. whatever works. I will edit anything. I don't need a optics module, so I'm going to do extra sharp on this one. Perspective correction is going to really probably jack it up, but let's see. Oh, not bad. Okay, let's see what we lost, though. We lost the top here. I wonder if we can just get right there. Let's back this off a little bit. Because you pointed the camera up, which seems very intentional, that you wanted to get the top of this. I think that works. I think from here, all we need is some global adjustments, really. Just to push on the highlights, midtones, tiny bit in the shadows, a little bit extra clear view, some more micro contrast, and the color. Let's try a couple of different profiles, but vibe, no, no. Portrait 2 looks good. I think I'll go with portrait number 2. And maybe a little bit of a push on the reds, or not. Let's try a little bit of more clear view first. It's much darker up here, luminance wise, so I'm going to do one local adjustment with a control line and just bring up the top a little bit so the exposure is a little more even. A little bit extra let's try regular contrast. Yeah, right in there. I'll back this off a bit. And that's it. So all right, so there's the original on the left. Here's the edit on the right. Really good keeping the camera level and almost perfect geometry, right? Like, I don't think I could have done a better job myself in terms of framing the shot. Really good job there. The only thing I would have tried, if it was possible, is try to get a little wider so you were using a fixed lens. So I would have, if you could, I would have backed up a little bit so I could have done this geometry changes, had a little more flexibility, because as it is, the framing was very, very tight. But I think that's all that's needed because there's already a lot of detail and color and everything. So let's just do a split view with geometry. And we can see the fine details here. Not bad. Yeah, it's mainly contrast and saturation. Right? Contrast, saturation, and brighten a little bit. Okay. All right, another architecture geometry type deal. This one is a little bit off center. I can see you're standing a little bit to the left of this building, which, could be a creative choice, but for me, I like this shot kind of lends itself to a perfect symmetry, but it's not. So let me think. I need an optics module first. Good opportunity to get a sip. So an OM5 with a 12 to 40. Very, very nice. And we shot this at f5, 11250. Wow, it's pretty bright out. Very strong light. Oh, well, you dialed in -7 EV, so not quite that strong, but. And this is a JPEG. All right. Oh, this was a JPEG too over here. I was wondering why the highlights clip so easily when I was zooming in and looking at the fine detail on the church here. The highlights were clipped. But now I understand it was a JPEG, that's why. Okay. So now let's apply an extra sharp. Let's see what geometry perspective does. Uh, kind of. It gets rid of this pole a little bit, but I think I like it without the perspective. It's just the image is a little bit warm. Let me fix the white balance. I don't know if we can with a JPEG. Okay, that'll do. Actually, what about a black? Yeah, let's do black and white. And then more micro contrast. Definitely more clear view. Then see if I can select these buildings. This one needs to be really gritty. I wonder if in this one. Oops. Okay. I might get rid of this one pole here. They are just one, DxO is just one module away from having a remove tool. Because if I could select that with the AI tool and just click remove, that would be awesome. But they'll probably hold out till version 10 on that one. For now, I'll have to use this brush. Let's pull the feathering off. Yeah, that's good. Just going to try a couple of different. Make this balanced. Okay. Then what if I just gave it a little bit more push versus, yeah, let's do that. All right. So just basically convert to black and white and just bring out some of the grittiness. I could do some additional sharpening maybe. Let's go down here, crank this up. just to make it even more gritty. Think about right there is good. I think it works as a black and white. Like I said, the only major change I would make is try to stand dead center here. That would be my creative choice. But yeah, this is nice. And this one little stem. Not much point to do a split view, but we can do, you know, because it's a JPEG, I over sharpened and got some artifacts in here to make it look a little bit grainy. That wasn't intentional, but it looks kind of, I think it looks pretty good. All right, let's go to the next one. That was from Martin. Oh, cool. Little doggy. So let's apply a preset. Let's go default. Horizon is just a tiny bit right here. I'm very confused. Let's do perspective. I think the background, the luminance is okay. We just need, let's do select people. Then add a little warmth. Magenta. Let's do animals. Whoops. Not the same. Give them a little warmth. Maybe some contrast. And then let's select the foreground here. I don't know if I can get the whole sidewalk. I'd have to do it in pieces. This one plus this one. Let's brighten that up as well. Okay. It's hard to tell where the sun is coming in, but let's select the sky. Just warm that up a bit too. It's a bit too much magenta in there. Might have to globally drop the magenta. Let's go down just a little more. Okay. We brighten up her face. Same thing on the dog. Then let's try and add just a little bit of a gradient to this side. Uh, hmm, that. Let's do a little bit of a crop. Okay. There we go. So that's the original on the left. Nice 16 by 9. This almost looks like a clip, what do you call it? Stock art for advertising where you can put a bunch of text here. Maybe it's a dog training, product, right? But the main thing was just to brighten them up so you could see them. And I didn't want to brighten just them and not the sidewalk. So I brightened the sidewalk here, but the background was really dark. I mean, easily 4 stops darker, right? Down in here. So that's why I added that graduated, what do you call it? Control line, just to darken this side, the sidewalk on the right side. Um, just to try to make that, because I had to brighten the subject so much, just to try to make that look a little more natural and darken the back of her on this side. But other than that, I think it came out okay. It was just a hint too much magenta for me. That's the final image. All right. Last one. So no optics module needed. So we'll apply the preset, do an extra sharp. Let's do a perspective. Not bad. Okay. And I think all we have to do here is just temper these highlights and bring out some of the details. Like I guarantee there's some very fine detail in here. Yeah, there's some brick here. So let's go ahead and select the building. Uh, let's see if we can get the whole building. Not really. Let me try subject. Nope. Let's try this square tool. I don't know what to call it. We'll call it a box tool. Not bad. Let's add a submask. Uh, so is that it? No, that didn't do it. Submask. I'll just use a brush. Okay, good enough. So let's try some micro contrast. There we go. And clear view. Just temper the highlights a bit. Select the water. Oops, I have to go back to the pointer. And just bring that in. I think that's it. So the only thing I wanted to do here, because it's a very you know, what do you call it? Fill the frame with the subject type deal, right? So there's not a lot of wiggle room for composition changes, for cropping or aspect ratios. We're pretty much stuck with as shot. So all I can do really is bring out some of the details. I think one other thing I just saw I can do is there's some pretty strong yellows in this scene. So let me spread this out. Yeah, I like that. There we go. So there's the original on the left, edit on the right. So bringing out the details in the brickwork, and I'll show you that in a second. Then highlighting these yellows down here. It's a really nice complement to some of the strong blues. Not a compliment, but I would say a nice accent to the blue colors. Uh, let's do a split view with geometry and just zoom in. And you can see what I mean about bringing out the detail in the bricks. It's hard to see when it's zoomed out, but hopefully you can see it here, right? We're able to bring out a lot of the brick detail. And even in the stacks here, there's a little bit of detail in there and some in the windows. It starts to fade out up here. Uh, and a little bit in here. But mainly the brickwork. And again, pay attention to the yellow down here. That strong yellow line down here, I think, I oversaturated, but that brings it in. All right, let me go to the chat section, and hopefully you guys liked those edits and picked up a few ideas about how to edit, your own photos using the tools, particularly bringing out details using unsharp mask, using for local adjustments, using the sharpening slider at the very bottom. And I think those are the two main things I used a lot today to bring out the finer details, particularly on this building. And then always think about depth, right? You're trying to make a two-dimensional image look three-dimensional, usually. And so try to break up your composition into foreground, midground, background, either through objects, like in a landscape, I had the sand and water, then the rocks, and then the sky, right? Foreground, midground, background, or through light, shadow, color. There was a good example. Not a whole lot, but this dog picture is kind of an example of it, right? I didn't have. No, it wasn't this one. It was. Yeah, it was this one. No, no, no. Heck, I don't know. I'm just talking out my butt, I guess. So anyhow, that's all the things I think about when I'm editing my photos. And let me just warn you though that you don't want to fall into the trap of following rule of thirds or leading lines or all of the rules that you see in composition, because then all your images are going to look the same. And this has been a challenge for me personally, right? If you look at my Instagram or Flickr page, everything is kind of the same to me. I don't know. I don't really like my own photography, to be honest. Yeah, I can get a good shot. You can see the technical skill is there a lot of times in the shot. There's a lot of technical skill. There's basic compositional skill set. but they're not fine art, and that's where I want to go. But uh, so don't fall into the trap like I have, and I'm trying to break out of. Um, and that's it. So let me check the chat section. I do see a big bright yellow question mark there. Originally, judge was saying to crop in further, but the flipping was better. I'd have to see the image. Is it an image you sent in? I'm curious uh, why they would consider flipping it to begin with, because I never do that. You've never seen me do that here. And I can't think of any examples. And XMeta says, haha, Rob, no Leica is a D. Yeah, from the Casio. Yeah, as soon as I looked at the camera, and then I saw Casio, I was like, oh, that's compact. But that's right, they did shoot DNG, right? I remember a couple of them did that. Casio, my God, I wonder, I might have a Casio camera around here. And John, Gavin, good to see you. Good morning. And voila, and a couple Ladas, okay. An Eastern Bloc time capsule. Oh yeah, those cars were really neat, really, really neat. And you captured them on probably a camera that's relatively modern compared to those cars, right? And that camera is interesting, by the way, pocketable, 24 to 240, 10 megapixel CMOS RAW, 40 frame per second shooting, and 1000 frame per second. Wow, that is an interesting camera. And it doesn't surprise me because XMeta, he really has, I don't know how to articulate it, but I just have a lot of respect for XMeta and his camera choices and his knowledge in those cameras that he buys, because I don't think he falls into gas or FOMO. I feel like you're very deliberate about your camera purchases. And now that you're telling me about the Casio, uh, I can see it was a very deliberate choice, right? Because of all the unique features. And Ethan, let's see, has a question. Uh, when you have time, I do a lot of photos of sand grains on a reflective surface with black and all around them. Yep, I get a lot of highlights in the black I have to get rid of. Can DxO help? Um, okay, so the best way is to send me an image with that kind of issue, right? But off the top of my head, it wouldn't be too dissimilar from this image here, right? So let me reset it. There's a little bit of a specular here, right? And definitely some speculars off of this and in here. But let's concentrate on this one. You would have to, you can use a gradient like this, and then I would select right on there. And then just tighten up the luminance a bit. Like so. So that got rid of that very, very easily. But that's just kind of a quick and dirty example that I may not even be addressing what you're talking about, but I think that's what you're talking about. Something like the water here, the speculars are very strong. They're not subtle like that little flare, right? So if I select the water, I would do that. You know what I mean? Or if I were to use the same idea, I would select, say, the brightest part, back off the luminance, and then just bring those in. That's probably not the best way to do it. Maybe go this way. Yeah, that's tough. That is tough. Oh, and then this is a JPEG. But a lot of times you're working with JPEGs, right? So send me one in and I'll do my best to kind of deal with the speculars you're talking about in the black background. And I'll try. I'll try and solve that. Okay. So join late. What did I say? Join late. It's always a privilege to see. Oh, yeah, you flatter me. I try. Um, and went ahead and donated and submitted one just now for either this week or next. Oh, okay. If it works easier with DxO, I may switch from Lightroom. Okay, I'll take a look. My only fear is there's going to be about 4 or 5 more, and I'm running out of a little bit of steam. Why don't we do it? Anything that's come in after I started, well, I have to do next week. Because yesterday I didn't have a heat stroke or anything, but I was definitely definitely had some problems with the heat yesterday, and it's really exhausted me. And then I had a little bit more today in the heat, which is partially why I had the delay. Anyway, it's long story short, I can't do it today. I'm out of steam. I have to do it next week. And Paul says sent an old one this week from 2018. Oh, okay. Hence, that's why I think it was a GX8 on that Lion, right? Let me see. This one here. Yeah, GX8 with a 45. Oh, 45 to 200. Wow. That's two very, very vintage cameras, but that makes sense. And doing his Lion King impression. Yep. And Clint Johnson says, so completely envious of everybody's bird pics. I went to an actual bird refuge last year and couldn't see anything with wings less than 100 yards away, except a couple of grackles. Yeah, we've all been there. We've all been there, Clint. Trust me. Um, I had a similar issue the other day, not with birds, but with, I was trying to do some macro. I couldn't find any jumping spiders, you know. Anyway, thanks on the bird. Like to send tough ones in where I can say this can be saved. Okay, yeah, send in your tough ones. Ideally, send in the raws, right? Uh, I mean, honestly, some just cannot be saved, though, right? I mean, but it makes it challenging for me, right? Because even though the stream is about helping you guys understand the tools in DxO, because I'm not here to impress you with my composition or editing skills. My goal is to teach you how to use the tools and get an idea of the workflow. But it's always fun for me if I get a challenging one, right? So send in what you got. But I don't want this to turn into, let's see, Rob, how can Rob recover this photo? One or two every now and then is fine, but not, I don't want the whole stream to turn into that. I want the stream to be about, you send in an image that you find a little tough to edit, and then I try to show you how to get it to something that I would do anyway. And you sent your edit in. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Let's see. I'll pull that up here shortly. How many did come in? Ah, Shakabe and yeah, I'm sorry. I'll have to do those next week. Let me just download. We'll download Paul's. Set as reference. Oh, anyway, don't tell me we did an identical edit. Almost. Almost identical. Oh, wait, there we go. So that's my edit on the left. That's Paul's on the right. The one before was I was just comparing my own image to my own image. So, okay. Very, very similar though. It's uncanny how similar Paul and I edit these images. So that's why I prefer if you send your edits in before I see them. So don't send your edits in until I've already started the stream. If that's possible. I know not everybody can send something in while the stream is live. So you can send them both in at the same time. But it's always more fun for me, I think, to see how close or how different our edits are. Um, but yeah, very, very similar. But yeah, somebody go into Photoshop and get rid of that stick. That's the only problem with that shot. Okay. And I actually like the way the branch above followed the shape of the lines back. Oh, okay. Because I cropped out the whole top of that branch, right? But that's an interesting point on this one. So you kind of like you like this branch. Yeah, that's got some potential because now we have a parallel here, right? That's interesting. I would just have to do a little wider crop, like a 5x4. Something like that. That's not bad either. Uh, and then David says R8 versus R6 Mark II for 8 to 10 years of use. Is the extra 500 pounds for the R6 II worth it or better spent on accessories, mainly for product, interiors, and some video? Okay, I'm sorry. There's this question. So, all right, so let me tell you the biggest problem with the R8, and that is the battery. Uh, if you're going to be doing video for any length of time, the battery is the biggest problem. Unless you plug in a power bank into the camera while you're recording video for long form. Because I was trying to record a lecture with my R8 and the battery died twice on it during the lecture. Now it was a 2-hour lecture, but I went through almost 3 batteries to record a 2-hour lecture on video. Had I plugged in a power bank, that would have made more sense because, but the problem is the camera, I had to be moving around. So that's number one. Number two, the R8 overheats, okay, for video recording. Even indoors where I'm in a controlled environment, um, I had more than my share of overheat warnings. It never shut down, but I had overheat warnings, which, you know, you're kind of sweating like, please don't shut off during the middle of this. You know what I mean? So video and the battery and overheating are the biggest problems when you're doing video with the R8. So I like the R8 because it is very compact and very comfortable in my hand, and I don't normally do video. When I do video, I will never use the R8 again, specifically for that reason. But uh, I like the R8's very compact and very easy to carry. The R6 is kind of a beast of a camera, right? It's a full-size mirrorless camera. full frame for that matter, right? Just like the R8. The R8 is more compact. And of course, you lose image stabilization in camera. Not really a big deal for me. I know a lot of people like it. I appreciate the IBIS and do take advantage of it in my Micro Four Third cameras. But the IBIS in the R6, um, the R6 has one and the R8 does not, right? But let me see. The question was 8 to 10 years. So I would definitely go the R6. The R6 is going to be more robust and weather sealed. So 8 to 10 years, your photography can go in a lot of directions. So you're going to want the more robust camera. So I would definitely go the R6 Mark II. No question. It's definitely worth the $500 over an 8 to 10 year window. Because the R8, that battery limitation, it's not only for video, it's also for photo. If you get into focus stacking and bracketing and or wildlife and sports action, it's going to be a problem because those things are very, very high demand on battery. Sports action, wildlife, focus bracketing. Uh, and as your photography expands, especially over 8 to 10 years, plus the fact that you might like to do some adventure photography, yeah, go with the most robust camera with a good battery life. And I think that's the way to go. I would definitely spend $500 extra. And oh, you add on, I'll be using the EF24 to 70 with an RF adapter. Yeah. Okay, lens is kind of irrelevant. And and XMeta says camera body is cheap, consumable. Lenses are expensive and stay longer. Spending a lot on a body makes no sense. So, uh, spending more than you have to on a body, yeah, makes no sense when you can split your money to lenses. So, I do agree with that statement. But to David's specific question, I think uh, it's worth it to spend the extra $500. Oh, you messed up when you sent it. So you had sent in that small TIFF file. So next time, it's no big deal. I mean, the ultimately I would have got better results if I had a larger, more robust raw file. But I think the basic idea, how I edit it, would be the same. And then John says, yes, the beach shot is abandoned. Your crop was very close to mine. I did do black and white. And I said, okay, thanks. Yeah, black and white, like I said, was the first thing that came to my mind, but I decided to go with the color, right? And Ethan says, awesome pick, John. I grew up there and all my images I post one-on-one are sand grains. Oh, really? That's really interesting. That's interesting. And JCAC work for me. Sorry, I did not send a bigger file. I didn't notice my shadow. Yeah, there your shadow was in the water there, just very subtle. There were construction barriers blocking the center of the building. Hmm. Okay. I assume that was the last image I edited. I'm not 100% sure. Great job on the dog pic. Oh, thank you. And not my image. It was a beach storm scene. When they post the Zoom, I will email a screen cap. Okay. I'm just curious why you would flip a scene. Uh, like I said, I flip reflections, but not scenes. I'm trying to send pics from various unicorn cameras to make it more interesting. So Casio today, because Casio was my first digicam. That was very interesting. That was very interesting. And date the body, marry the lens. Oh, that's funny. Hey David, how are you? So I had to cancel the meetup tomorrow because of the air quality. Um, that's too bad because the temperature was going to be perfect. It's cloudy, but the temperature was really good. But I'm just a little worried because of the issue I had yesterday and this morning. I didn't want to put that on anybody else. I still might go though. I might go. I'll post up in our little group in WhatsApp if I decide to go. And yes, the edit, I learned a lot. Okay, great. I'm glad. And then let me go back to the beginning. I don't know if who was it? Oh, William, right? No. Yeah, it was William. I need your help on OM1 300 F4 Pro. My AF fails as soon as the birds get with cliffs as a background. So spot shadow metering that's fine. That doesn't affect the autofocus, but uh, the gist of what I was going to tell you to do was just use a smaller targeting point. You know how you can go small, medium, large? Make a custom one that's a little bit bigger than large, but not the whole frame for the bird detect autofocus. And then try to shoot in full manual. Lock in, your shutter speed, aperture, and ISO for the exposure. And there's a couple other things. I have to make a whole another video. I've been promising that forever, but there's so many tiny things that may or may not affect the autofocusing, but I do anecdotally, I feel like I'm getting better autofocus with all the settings I'm using. It's just the problem is there's no way to scientifically test it, right? All I can do is tell you, yeah, this feels better. It feels like it's focusing better. Could be all in my head, you know, by changing this little setting that shouldn't be related to autofocus, but somehow it is, right? But anyway, uh, we'll end it here. Thanks everyone today for joining me for photo editing. It's always a lot of fun. And I'll be back again next week, hopefully at my normal time to uh, do some more editing, right? So thanks again for joining me today. Have a good day. Try to do that every day, and you'll have a good life. Eat healthy and exercise, and I hope to see you guys all again soon.